Hi guys, this is Faye from Face World Media. This is going to be a slightly unusual video because I want to talk to you about a recent art collaboration I'm so excited about because it's with my mom, SignNow, and the lovely New England Botanic Garden at Tower Hill. By the way, if you're not familiar with this garden, is located in West Boylston in Massachusetts. Now, there are a few things I want to touch base on, including the smart technologies and software we use to make this production a lot easier. And that's the tech piece. But I also want to talk to you about working with the PR team, regular media outreach. Thankfully, to all the incredible women and leaders at Tower Hill, I was able to learn so much and the process has been smooth. The show has been extended from launching on June 14th, 2025 through August 24th to extend the exhibit until October 12th, 2025. So if you're watching this video, you live somewhere in Massachusetts, or you plan to travel here, I highly recommend that you stop by Tower Hill. I will list some of the information below so you know the address and so you can pay a visit while the show is still going on. Special shout out to SignNow, who sponsors this video. Not only do I use SignNow with SignNow, I also use it with Face Worlds, various contractors, client engagements, and even brand collaborations. More on SignNow in just a moment. In addition to the smart technology software, I want to give you an idea of the setup of the show, as well as some of the highlights, such as the opening reception, the merch design, the PODs, print-on-demand companies that we worked with, the walk and talk where we get to meet visitors and showcase all the stories of these Chinese empresses. I want to dedicate this video to all the people at Tower Hill Botanic Garden leadership team and the people we work with on a regular basis. I also want to devote this video to those of you who are emerging, as well as professional artists, those who are art administrators, people who celebrate and support arts and culture in any area in this world. I continue to learn so much from everybody who is involved in the show and beyond. And I want to sit here and share my experiences with full transparency with all of you. In the next portion, I'm going to tell you the entire life cycle of setting up the show, having the experiences of walk and talks, pop-ups, opening reception, and working directly with everybody involved. Now, in case you want to hop over to a particular section, I have listed chapters or show notes in the description below. You can also see these chapters directly within the video itself. As you move the cursor, you should be able to jump to each section pretty easily. Now, let's first talk about setup. It took us almost exactly a year for this opportunity to be confirmed. This was summer 2024. I have to remember to set my calendar to have conversations with the people involved at Tower Hill Botanic Garden. Then we had meetup to check out the space. By the way, that is so important. Visiting the venue or gallery space is critical. Even if you've visited the place before, you know it really well, but if this is going to be your first time to set up a show, you want to be there physically. The things you want to look at, the wall space and the railing system that you use to hang these paintings. If you have something that's fairly standard, such as canvas prints or framed work, those are a little easier. In our case, these are large fabrics and 100% silk. That's what my mom uses to paint these 200 Chinese empresses. So they have to hang with clips. Not all clips gonna work. So what you wanna do is to definitely check out the hanging system and practice with the materials, with the tools and gadgets you already have. If they don't work as expected, research on Amazon or wherever you get your art supplies to ensure that it's going to work with the wall space and the installation system they have. We had a meeting in fall 24, followed by another visit in spring 2025. So the reason for that is sometimes you feel like you've scoped and scouted out the location, you've had all your questions answered, but there are just certain things that you're going to remember, things are going to come up during a second and sometime even the third visit. I know it's a luxury to be able to visit the space and have somebody host your visit. In this case, it was a gallery manager. Her name is Leah Morgan, and she is simply incredible. On the day of the installation, you want to make sure that you have at least a week in advance. We try to plan a big installation over 2 days, sometimes even a third day, just because things could go wrong. On the day of the installation, we had Leah, myself, my partner Adam, and our dear friend Jorge. We had to figure out a time that works for the installation. The location could have conferences, could have other events going on. You want to make sure to know these things ahead of time, so coordinate with the gallery manager. We arrived mid-morning and we continued to work pretty much through early evening and ended around 6 to 7 o'clock. At the time, garden was already closed, and it actually got easier after people left. The visitors were no longer in the gallery walking around. Because we had 12 to 14 originals, and most of the originals were quite large. We're talking about 4 by 2 meters or 160 inches by 80 inches. We needed more than one person to hang up the originals, which is on the soft silk, very unstructured material. These paintings are not mounted, so they're not stiff and they flow easily. And on the other side of the gallery, which is called Fern Gallery, we had about 60 pieces of art canvases. These are giclée, high quality canvas prints, about 20 to 40 inches in size. To measure the distance, and because we have so many of them displayed for every single dynasty, we have to measure the distance between these canvases, but also overall to make sure they fit. One thing I did that was tremendously helpful before the installation was that I decided to number all these canvases, all 60 of them, from 1 to 60. These canvases are organized by Chinese dynasties based on historical timeline. That was helpful because not everybody during the installation will know Chinese history all that well. And it was helpful for me to use the simplest numbering system, just straight through, very linear approach, and that worked out well. My friend Jorge also recommended that we spread out these canvases at the beginning so we can easily visualize if they're going to fit the space. Needless to say, we didn't do all the math, all the planning on the day of the installation. I used a very simple approach based on the space, all the measurements I was given by Leah, and I pre-planned the look and feel and where the canvases are going to go. I would say months, maybe a year in advance. The final tweaks may still be necessary, but you don't want to be surprised. And I think the idea of mocking up something like this will give the gallery manager and everybody involved a clear visual or set their expectations early on in terms of how it's going to look. Next, I want to talk about the opening reception. Shortly after the installation, which we knew was going to be successful, I used Eventbrite to estimate how many people are going to show up. And we had basically 50 seats, and there was catering, there were drinks. So it was very helpful to estimate and contact people in advance. Days leading up to the reception, we had several phone calls of people who couldn't make it to the opening. And I wasn't disappointed. It was something that I really planned for, and I wanted to make sure that people are having a great time. We also had a lot of guests who traveled quite far, over an hour away from West Boylston. It was so lovely to see them. As a host of the reception, I was there with the CEO of a Tower Hill Botanic Garden, and everybody who was involved, Marissa, Leah Morgan, Liz, everybody was there. I was super touched, to be honest. I didn't quite expect people to want to stay late, spend all the extra hours just for us. The reception went from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and we're able to wrap up right around 8:30. It was so lovely. And because I knew I had to do a lot of translation for Mom, whose English is limited, I also had a little speech planned for a few minutes after the CEO had given hers. So I decided to hire a photographer and videographer. This way, somebody is able to take care of the filming and photo taking while you need to manage everybody else. I would say that these art opening receptions, especially since for us, this is a solo exhibit, not a group exhibit, it really felt like a small wedding. So having extra hands and even prepare your family and friends who volunteer to help you to give them some clear instruction. For example, my dear friend Tripti, who has been working with us for Xiangli Art for quite some time now, was able to take additional photos and videos. She was also able to host and introduce herself, introduce Xiangli Art and the collections to people who are new to it. I would say it went super smoothly that day. It was basically 100 degrees in Central Mass, and everybody still had a great time. We're able to direct people and having that solitude of being really immersed with Mom's artwork. The garden was basically closed at that point, and people were able to travel between the galleries and have a great time. What's really unique about working with the New England Botanic Garden at Tower Hill is that they had so many different media contacts. We could see that they ran these lovely ads on Facebook and Instagram, engaging everyone about the show. I also had the opportunity to work directly with their PR team to coordinate media outreach and any publications that may be interested in Xiangli Art. Liz and I had a spreadsheet, we had check-ins, and that went really smoothly as well. I think when it comes to these media outreach, it's so important to coordinate and be flexible. In some events, it made sense for the garden to be involved independently. In some cases, it was important for me to be the guest, on podcasts or directly coordinating with the different media outlets. Next, I want to talk about blending the old and the new. So Xiangli art, or in this exhibition about Chinese empresses, you may be wondering if you're an artist or art administrator, how do we draw the connection between her art versus the Botanic Garden? It was pretty obvious to us, but sometimes it takes a few iterations to figure out how to share the story. For one, this is a story of women leadership. And not only that, Chinese empresses have a lot of floral designs on their wardrobes or their robes. And there is a strong theme of botanical elements within Xiangli's work. A lot of flowers, a lot of birds and phoenix and dragons. It was pretty easy to bridge the gap of why her work deserves to be seen at the garden. If you want to tell a slightly different story, I completely get it, but it's important to communicate the stories behind your paintings with a specific venue. In this case, a garden. So that is something to think about. Now, if you feel like you're facing a blank page, you don't know exactly how to share your story, ChatGPT is a great resource for that. We use it all the time. So simply ask ChatGPT, I am such and such, here's my collection, here's where I have exhibited in the past. I intend to exhibit at this venue, whether it's a botanic garden or a museum or a community center, and ChatGPT is going to help you brainstorm the connection, and being able to share that vision with whoever's in charge is going to significantly increase your chance of being able to have a successful show. It's important for us to talk about the smart tools that I used because there was a lot of work involved. There was a lot of art signs that I have to design based on specific empresses, the background, the artist statement, and different dynasties. I have to turn to Adobe Express in this case, and to be able to design these templates that I can repurpose and reuse for different dynasties and different parts of the show. With ChatGPT, I was able to very easily research the flowers that were very prominent throughout Chinese history. In this way, not only I get to have these conversations with my mom, learn as much as possible, but I was able to summarize our conversation and create these signs that attracted a lot of visitors and being able to learn more about Chinese history. I mentioned SignNow previously. Managing these contracts is huge. Sometimes you sign one contract, and managing contracts with these venues, especially if you have multiple art exhibits ongoing in parallel, it's important to manage all your contracts in one place based on what you're trying to do, and organizing everything in folders and in these clearly documented contracts, having both parties sign and receive a copy cannot be overstated. In addition to using Adobe Express to design these signs, I also ended up using it to create Gen AI templates. I chose to place some of the beautiful floral themed photos shared with me by the garden and place them into these cards. Beyond the opening reception, I got to engage with visitors through different events, one of which is called Walk and Talk. By definition, I'm walking with my mom throughout different galleries and pause in front of the paintings and be able to explain to a group of 14 to 16 people about the origin of these stories, how mom got started. A lot of people ask how she's able to envision over 200 people, in this case, Chinese empresses, without every meeting we're seeing them. Creativity has no boundaries, and being able to share those stories, I feel like was able to help a lot of these visitors connect much more with my mom, who's the artist behind the collection. We're able to do multiple rounds of these walk and talks. We had a pop-up, which placed us just outside the cafe before people enter into the gallery, and it was so successful. We're there for a few hours on a Sunday afternoon, and there were additional events happening at the garden, including lion dance. And as a result, I felt like hundreds of people not only walked by the table, but they all found something they truly love, including cards, scarves, and art prints. In the later half of that afternoon, my mom and I gave a speech inside one of their conference rooms, and 40 people showed up. They signed up and were able to give the presentation, show them the video, and elaborate more on the exhibits. I personally learned so much from those experiences, and I'm so glad everybody else was also having a great time. I really love the fact that just before people enter the gallery, there was a big TV, I would say around like 60, maybe 75 inches or so. I decided to work with the gallery manager and place a short video. They requested something like 2 minutes that will showcase mom's previous exhibits. So I'm going to quickly play on the screen right now. And if you want to see it in closer details, I'll include a link below. You can watch the whole video on Xiangli's channel if you choose to. I would say having different media types and ways of engaging with people who walk by is essential because we want to showcase to others what we have done, where we've been, and how we're able to transform Xiangli's art into different venues, including hospitals, community centers, and even libraries. This exhibit deepened our relationship with people working at the garden. Through this fantastic collaboration, we're able to learn much more. So I hope you find this video helpful. I really enjoy kind of sitting down and just blab out what's on my mind and summarize these learnings. And I think it's an opportunity for me to transcribe this and put together an article. If that's of interest, you can find it on faceworld.com/blog. I'll include a link. And if you are an emerging artist, a professional artist, an administrator, a gallery manager, whoever you are, wherever you are, I would love to hear your questions and reflections. Let me know if this type of videos is helpful and how you're able to engage with various technology to make this process easier for creators and artists. I'm all ears, and I'll see you in the next video. Much love.